From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Hello and welcome to this Cronkite News Update. I'm Joey Carrera. Thanks for joining us on this evening of the Arizona primary elections. Our news teams are all over Arizona today, tracking top races and watching the polls. We start with a look at the race for United States Senate. John McCain has held his seat since 1987, and tonight he faces a Republican primary challenge. McCain faces two opponents for the Republican ballot spot. Former Arizona State Senator Kelly Ward, who was 18 when McCain first took office, runs on the platform of getting a new face in Washington. The other candidate, Claire Von Stewick, who runs as a self-proclaimed Christian constitutionalist and fiscal conservative, the primary winner will go on to face Democrat Ann Kirkpatrick, who runs unopposed for the Democratic ballot spot. And another longtime incumbent facing opposition today, Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Arpaio has served the county for 23 years, but three other candidates are trying to end his run. Former Buckeye Police Chief Dan Sabin, retired Sheriff's Deputy Wayne Baker, and Marcia Hill, a former posse commander, are challenging Arpaio for the Republican nomination. The winner will face retired Phoenix police officer Paul Penzone in November. It was a different scene this morning out at polling precincts compared to what we saw back in March for the presidential preference election. Reporter Veronica Acosta spoke to Valley voters who went out early to cast their votes.
There were no lines or wait times this morning for the handful of voters who stopped by several polling precincts to cast their votes in the Arizona primary. Only a couple of voters stopped by each of the polling locations we visited, which made for a very quiet morning.
It's not been very busy, I don't think.
Of the few that did show up, most were there to drop off their early ballots, something that one voter said is gaining tons of popularity.
Other than the presidential primary, it's been about like this. I think more and more people vote by mail as at each election, fewer people show up in person.
Along with early ballot voting, the changes made by the county recorder's office meant to fix the problems voters went through back in March was something to watch for.
Well, I think a lot of people had decided to vote early in today's election because of the challenges that many people faced earlier this year. It also appears that the County Elections Department has made some adjustments and created more polling places for this election, which I am very glad to see.
Despite the mostly empty polls, one of the voters who dropped by was happy with the changes made and the 0-minute waiting time she had.
This is even better, I guess, because there's nobody here. They have more people helping
voters make sure their voices are heard. In Phoenix, Veronica Acosta, Cronkite News.
That's it for this Cronkite News Arizona Primary Day update. To stay up to date on all of tonight's election results, you can go to cronkitenews.azpbs and find Cronkite News on Facebook and Twitter for live results and reaction through this evening.
Now for a Cronkite News special presentation from our Carnegie Night News 21 Voting Wars project. I'm Katherine Pfeiffer. I had the honor of joining a team of 31 journalism students in the investigation of voting rights and election participation nationwide. Tonight, we highlight some of our top stories from the project, which looked into race and rights, power and privilege, and facing the future of our democracy in the United States.
They're trying to turn back the hands of time. They're trying to make it hard for black people to vote. If they take away the right to vote, then we left off. They're not really talking about the right to vote, but they're trying to make it harder for you to have that right to vote.
Well, I was a co-sponsor of the legislation to ensure that we had photo ID in Alabama, and the reason that I supported the bill was to ensure that we had credibility and integrity in the electoral process. Now, oftentimes a question will come, well, how many reported incidences did you have of voter fraud that made you think that this was what was necessary? Well, that's not necessarily the question. The question is, what do we need to do to preserve the integrity of the electoral process?
There are a lot of older people who don't have an ID, might have nothing but a Social Security card. They ain't got driving license. So those people are gonna be turning around at the poll. And when they go there, they be intimidated, they're not gonna vote. They're not gonna go back the next time.
It's not just African Americans who are being denied. The problem is poor white people think we're doing something to them, yet the same laws that hurt us hurt them. They close DMVs so that you don't get ID, so try to prevent you from going to vote.
When these particular locations were closed, most people assumed that they were open every day from 8 to 5, every day the courthouse was open, and that was not the case. None of these places were open more than 4 days a month. And now, some of them are open again, but it may just be 1 day a month.
The Secretary of State has his effort of where he has his mobile units going around and making a government ID available at no cost. That's a step in the right direction. I have to admit that, and we appreciate that. But if they send it to Haynesville, over here that's 15 miles. Fort Deposit, that's 30 miles. Colorine, that's 20-something miles. It's still hard for folks to come in if they're not in there and have somebody who ready available to take them over there to get it. It's still hard for them to get it.
If you're talking about people not being able to go get a photo ID card because they don't have transportation, it's not going to be any easier for them to go to a DMV unit that's open 1 day, 2 days, 5 days a week, or any other time, because the transportation issue is still going to be a concern.
We've come a long way, but each step was a struggle. We're not where we were, but we're not where we need to be when people still can treat people as if they don't exist.
There should come a day when there should be no need for a Voting Rights Act, because America will accept the fact one day that all Americans should enjoy the privilege of being able to vote without any hardship, any barriers, having to go through any kind of frustration.
There's been long-standing, historical barriers to Native Americans having access to vote.
I guess we're good for the romanticized version of the Native American. On the horse with your hair flowing, not like this, not as a voter.
Everybody who is age 18 or beyond should be able to vote. We've fought for this for a long, long time.
What we can't do through negotiation, we're willing to do it through litigation. Native Americans have actually been the victim of the political process since the creation of the United States. First of all, the majority of the reservations, regardless of what state they're in, those counties that they're usually located in are going to be the poorest counties in the United States.
From here to Pine Ridge is like 65 miles. And then there's a lot more county to go. I know it's a hardship at times for them to drive up here, undoubtedly, and that was part of the lawsuit, is they couldn't, drive up here to come vote like our county residents do. So they had to have that mechanism down there to let them be able to vote early.
Early voting can be extremely important during an election. However, on Indian reservations like Rosebud, like Pine Ridge, we haven't always had access to early voting. If we were to go back, a decade, and if I was a voter here on Rosebud living in Todd County, I would have to drive, 60 miles to, for some people, 80 up to 80 miles simply to go physically early vote. It's particularly important to have early voting opportunities available in Native American communities, which often happen to be areas of poverty. Not everyone has access to a car. Not everyone has access to transportation when they need it.
And I don't have any problems with the lawsuit because it kind of got the Secretary of State's office involved with us, and they made the commitment to fund the 6 weeks in a day early voting for all federal elections.
So we are making a change. I don't know if it's because they think it's right or because we just will never go away.
You know, nobody likes to be in a lawsuit, obviously, but it was for the fight to give the people 6 weeks of the early vote down there, just like everybody else gets in the state of South Dakota. And with that, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's not always the laws that stop us. It's sometimes the culture that is the biggest barrier for us to have equality. So like I said, we can deal with laws. We can't deal with people whose culture is one that thinks we're still inferior.
The county, San Juan County, decided to go mail-in ballot. My first reaction was, what about those people that don't speak English? What happens to those people? How are they going to cast their vote? Who's going to help them? Some of the Navajos who do not read or speak English probably would not be able to vote.
It's the older elders that come out and vote, and most of them don't have the English language. So you need to have them have a translator, and translating a ballot to someone is pretty tough. Now we have mail-in, and there's a lot of difficulties with the mail-in, I believe, and due to a lot of times the mail is late, or we send the ballot back either a day late or a couple days late, and they don't accept those. I believe, as a veteran, that you fought for your country and you fought for your people, and that those people should be able to have that opportunity to go out and vote.
We're the same people. We should have equal access to voting.
The relationships between a lot of the natives and non-natives on the reservation border towns, the relationships are shaky. There's still that Indian cowboy mentality that isn't always good. The state will never get anywhere as long as we keep pretending this mentality doesn't exist, because it does. Growing up, the biggest thing my grandma always said was, you have a responsibility to your community outside of yourself and your family. Don't ever forget that. So I do a lot of youth work, I do a lot of nonprofit work and all of that. But I saw how a lot of things tied into things at different levels, that the only way we could address it is our vote. And I guess some of the more traditional people who were like, oh, it's the U.S. government, they don't care. I'm like, you got to vote. And I said, when you guys said buffalo was our means of survival long ago, I said, that's our vote. Our vote is our buffalo now. That's all we got. We can sit home and complain, or we can go vote. And that's the thing, I always say that. If your vote didn't matter, they won't be trying so hard to keep it from you.
lost our craftsmen. We lost the manufacturing facilities. So the steel industry in this area is basically dead.
There's been this dissension and unhappiness for a long time, and economic turmoil for a long time in this region.
I really do think it's this attitude that we lost our jobs, and nobody's really come to help us.
All of the businesses are gone, they're closed up, and no matter how much money you got in your pocket, you can't spend it in time and there's nothing here to buy.
A very large portion of our county is timberland and woodland, and the surrounding counties are the same way. And so agriculture is very, very key to this community. We are a very environmentally sensitive industry in everything that we do, whether it be the trees that we're harvesting and turning into wood products for people to use, or even the log homes. Typically, more government regulation means more cost to us. There used to be 500 employees here, and we are down to 130 now.
We're seeing small communities die, whether it be in Iowa or Indiana or wherever. We're seeing them die, and I'd personally like to see the politicians back off and let's look at what we can do for these rural communities.
I don't think a lot of people out in here feel like they're being heard, really. You know, it's like they voice their opinions. And so when someone comes along that is talking completely different political rhetoric than what has been talked probably in the last decade or two even, I think it's appealing to them because they finally see somebody kind of maybe gets the mindset that I have about something, you know, and I think that has a lot to do with Trump's popularity, particularly like in our area here.
I could see the anger at politicians, and that anger I think still lingers. I really do think it's this attitude that we lost our jobs, and nobody's really come to help us.
When the coal left, it left our little county pretty bare. I mean, we don't have the coal severance monies, and I have sympathy for our county and our fiscal court trying to operate without these funds. There's a kid growing up, there was coal mines everywhere. About, I'm gonna say 80% of the people in our county worked in coal mines, whether it be deep mines or surface mines. So I don't know that we even have a mine going in our county now.
Our people in Washington are supposed to be helping us, but they don't care about this area because we're not very populated, you know. Obama's done a bad job. I don't think they like Trump that good, but you don't have much of an alternative.
People in this area here are quick to tell you, you know, that they're ready for a change. And I don't really think it matters who, but they're ready for a change. We've seen a big increase, and we're seeing it daily, people coming in and changing the registration. And we have somewhere around 900 registered Republicans as of today.
The problem we have is that's all they know, you know. That's all they were raised with from the time they was big enough to walk. They've been around in coal mines, you know. So that's why they are switching their politics. Of course, you got some diehard Democrats that won't vote no other way, you know. But most of the younger generation is going to go for Trump.
Most people here are Democrats, but they're unhappy with the party right now. They really are.
This was a very heavily manufacturing region. At one time, it was one of the major steel producers in the country, if not the world. This is a very strong Democratic region. The Democratic Party has had total control of county governments, local governments for a long, long time. The Republican Party's resurrection this year is the result of one person and one person alone, Donald Trump.
Well, we watched the demise of the steel industry back in the 70s, and since that time it's been a little bit of a struggle, and now we see a lot of small businesses popping up, trying to get going. Families that wanted to stay here, they've gone into their own businesses, so that's part of what's happening. When I was decided to volunteer, they were looking for a volunteer from Mahoning County to sort of be the Trump chairperson. I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. This is really important. I mean, I had one person came that was almost 90 years old who said, I have never voted Republican in my life. Give me the biggest sign you've got. And that was a frequent comment. They never thought they would ever vote Republican, but they were optimistic that this might be their last chance.
When you're desperate, you cling to something. And there is a large population, a large segment of our population that's desperate.
We just want a country that works. We want jobs. We want to protect our borders. We want to have a life for our children. So I think that's part of the change. They just don't know what to expect. And the rest of us are just optimistic that he will get it done.
I've never been political in my life. I've never spoken out about anything. I'm just out here talking to American people, hearing their story, and we talk about issues and how it relates to me and my life and why I'm supporting Trump. And and they talk about things, they're all very different, but all very the same, because something is affecting them that's making them care about this election.
I live in Ligonier, PA, which is real close to Latrobe. This is my manufacturing plant. I'm a third generation, and my grandfather started this back in 1952. And we're on our fourth generation right now. I technically gave my son his first paycheck. As a manufacturer, you need somebody that's actually behind you. You need somebody that supports you, somebody that helps you.
Small companies that were thriving and doing well, they're closing because Obamacare's wiped them out, because you don't have all this money to go around, and all the regulations are ridiculous, and things he's put in place has caused a lot of companies to go. It's hard to stay in business. If you're a small business, you're struggling.
They don't see what the people are actually, how they live and how they're struggling. They don't care. They just do things the way they've always been doing them. We need to change.
They can't wait to tell you, I'm a Democrat, I'm voting Trump. That's amazing to me. In fact, at the primary, I had a lot of people come after they voted, and they were very angry because they didn't understand they couldn't vote Trump in the primary because they were Democrats. So it's changed, and that's a great thing, because I think people are coming together and they're talking. And they're talking about how this election matters because things are affecting their lives and their incomes and their families, and they're definitely paying attention.
Every day I come here, I make sure everything's done right every time. It's called integrity. I have integrity. We need integrity in this government. We don't have it. We don't have it right now. And yeah, I think we'll get it with the Trump administration.
One of the things that Mi Familia Vota has as challenges, with trying to engage Latino voters, is just trying to find all of them and get them all motivated and all registered, because the fact that they are a hardworking population. But the beauty of it is that when we do get them in the door and we get them in volunteering and being a part of our movement, we definitely see that it was all worth it. The struggle, the fight, the sweat and the tears to be out in the field and motivating them to be engaged. At the end, when they are engaged, is the biggest reward.
It really is nice that we're getting, primarily that we're targeting this community, because a lot of Hispanics don't know the rights that they do have. So it's nice to be able to come out here and talk to them firsthand to see what's going on in the community and be able to register them and give them hope.
A lot of the people that volunteer and intern here in Mi Familia Vota are youth. And a lot of our team has been going to their graduations because that's it, the next stepping stone of their lives is, you know, changing the world. But they take with them what they learned here, which is to be civically engaged, to be aware, to learn, to educate their community, their parents. It's not that hard to get involved in Nevada alone in politics. It's more of, especially here in Clark County, the elections department is very easy and to work with. They help organizations like ours be aware of, you know, early voting dates so that we can inform our community to be able to participate in the election. So they make it very easy. And it's helping us in a sense of getting people who don't want to get involved in the politics, but want to get involved in helping the community have a voice. We have to hold these elected officials accountable. If they said they were going to do something, we have to show up to the meetings, we have to show up to the city council meetings, show up to the school board meetings, and demand accountability for the decisions that they're making. And that's where the Latino community comes into power. You want our vote, you got to earn it. And that's what's happening this year. If you want to win the presidency, you got to earn the Latino vote.
That's it for this special edition of Cronkite News. Thank you for joining us. To access the entire News 21 multimedia investigative report on voting wars, go to votingwars.news21.com.